What's up, everyone? Welcome to the BNB Formula podcast. My name is Alex Jarbo. We have a phenomenal guest for you guys today. His name is Mark Simpson. He is the founder of Boostly, and he's been absolutely influential in my company, and I guarantee he's going to be influential in yours. So, what's up, Mark?
My absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite, and yeah, excited to digging into today and see what we can go through.
Yeah, man. So let's just start with just your story, your background, how you came into this world, and what you're working on now.
Yeah, sure. So, as you can tell from the accent, I'm over the pond. I'm over here in the UK. I was born in the UK, born in a little town called Scarborough. I've been literally born into hospitality, which is mad because most people don't really born in this industry. You come into it, you fall into it from one way, shape, or other, especially with real estate investing. And when I was born, my parents had a 200-acre farm stay bed and breakfast. They had a 14 bedrooms, which later added on 3 holiday cottages, and it was created and founded in the 90s. So in the 90s, there was no social media, no internet. The only marketing they were doing was word of mouth and offline ads. So newspaper, magazine, print. So as I grew up, I was just always doing work in the tea rooms, work in the bed and breakfast, doing breakfast, going off to school, coming home, doing the dinner, changing the beds, all that jazz. And as I grew older, I was just so used to having strangers in my house every day, to the point where when I started to go to friends' house to play and they didn't have strangers in their house, I was like, what's going on? This is a bit bizarre and weird. And then as years go on, I got into my teens and I wanted to do one thing and one thing only, and that was escape. I wanted to escape this little village. And I got into soccer bad. I really wanted to be a soccer player, but unfortunately, I'm a crap soccer player. So I fell into coaching. And with coaching, I got all my badges and then had an amazing opportunity to come to the States. So from like 2002 to 2009, I pretty much traveled to every state in America, coaching soccer, youth development, which was awesome. So I had every year I'd get a 5-month visa, my H1 visa, come over for 5 months, and then back to the UK for 7 months. Kept doing that, and over time I realized I was never going to become a soccer player or a soccer coach in America. I was never going to get my green card. Came back to the UK, went straight down to London, down to the capital city, and started working at Yelp, which was a Quip at the time, but then was bought out by Yelp, the big review site. And I sort of fell into sales and marketing, and it was at that role I learned all about social media. I learned all about reviews. I learned all about Google, SEO, all of that jazz. And I learned about sales as well. And then in 2012, my family business was still running. This is like 25 years in now. And they wanted one of me or my siblings to come into the business to help them get online. Because at this point, after 25 years, they had no website. They were doing everything on pen and paper. They were like scribbling out Tipex. It was crazy. I looked at that business and went, wow, my head's going to explode here.
But they were greeting people at the door.
Yeah, doing all of that. Everything was done on pen and paper. It was crazy. There was no PMS in the background. So yeah, fast forward 2 years, 2014, we put everything online, website, social media, TripAdvisor. We took 25 years worth of offline reviews and good word of mouth, and we put it online, and it just went like wildfire. So it was crazy that we were ranked one of the top 3 businesses on TripAdvisor in the north of the UK, which in 2014, TripAdvisor was the main place to go when people were making the reservations. And then social media like Facebook, our Facebook page was the most followed independent local business. So we've got to a point where 80% of all of our revenue was generated by direct bookings. And then the final 20% was made via Booking.com and the Expedia group. And then Airbnb slowly dug into that the more popular they became in like 2015, etc. So fast forward 2016, I read a book by Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Workweek, which was all about outsourcing and sort of, getting time back. And it was crazy to me. Like it's like I just seen the Matrix for the first time. And, I implemented that and managed to get virtual team members, virtual assistants to sort of help alleviate a lot of the day-to-day work that I was doing. And then with that extra time that I had, I started to go to local tourism meetings. At these meetings, there was hosts, like rental owners, there's like property management companies, people doing the rent-to-rent model, whatever you want to call it. And I was got chatting to people, asking what are they doing, what's the main concerns in their business. Wasn't anything more than just a strike up conversation. And what I realized at these meetings that so many business owners were being reactive with their marketing. So they were relying solely on booking.com to generate their
Right.
bookings. They were relying so much on Expedia or relying on Airbnb. And I just asked the question, like, what are you doing to like generate, to be proactive, to generate your own bookings? And they just looked at me blankly, like blank expression. And I was like, oh, okay.
You're
Then
like
I asked like,
booking.com is my business. Yeah.
exactly. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what help is there? Like what local help from the tourism board, from the bureau or anything? And there was nothing. And then I went online and looked to see who was around. And there was a couple of like people in 2016 that was giving help and advice, but it was so outdated or it was just so wrong. I was like
Right.
encouraging people to spend, a lot of money on Facebook ads. And it was just showing people how to burn money. So I sort of like thought, well, sod this, let me do something about it. And I created a Facebook group. That's called the Hospitality Community Facebook group. Please do all come and find it. It's on Facebook. It's one of the most engaged Facebook groups, which is like one of my proudest things that we've done. It's got like 92% engagement. It's a really cool community. And, there's people been in there for like the 6-7 years that I've been doing Boostly. And my whole thing was just every single day, I was going to show up and post help and advice on emails, with social media, whatever it may be. And then after 2 years of doing that every single day, people started encouraging other people to join. So
Right.
it was mainly for Scarborough and Whitby. But then what I found is that people from America were joining and people from Australia. And before you knew it, was 1,000 members, people from all over the world, all over the niches. And people started asking me messages, jumping in my messages and saying, hey, this is my problem. How can what do you recommend? And it was happening so much. I thought, well, surely there's an idea here. And I just started to create tons of videos, like 80 hours worth of videos. I
Mm.
uploaded it to Thinkific,
Yep.
which is like Kajabi.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the founding sort of principle of what Boostly is now. And fast forward like 4 years, Boostly has now got 2,500 members. We've added in a website design business.
Yep.
And I think we've become the go-to experts when it comes to direct bookings. And we've got books and podcasts and YouTube videos. And so, yeah, that's been the journey. My goal is to help 1 million hosts sort of cut down on their over-reliance on Airbnb. That's the big goal. And so every podcast, webinar I do is all geared towards that. So appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. No, that's incredible. And it's not we're sort of going through a similar thing right now. So we're purchasing a property that was built in 1885. It's a historic house. And it's got like 6 bedrooms and then it has 6 cottages as well. But I started rereading your book. I had read your book when it first came out, but I started rereading your book recently just because I'm like, okay, like like most of the owners that currently own it, all of their bookings do come from Airbnb and VRBO mainly. They do have some on like direct bookings, but it's not where I feel like it needs to be. And when I originally found your content, I was actually looking up like YouTube videos, and it was because I had a situation. I've told the students this story on this Facebook group, but I've told the story where a guest had completely blatantly lied about one of my properties and like how the property was set up and everything. And long story short, Airbnb had removed my listing and then took away my superhost status completely without, it was almost like shoot first, ask questions later. And ever since, luckily I only had one property at that time. But ever since that had happened, I was like, it was a complete mindset switch of, okay, like I need to, like I own that property as well. So it's like they had complete control over my property without me, without, and they eventually reinstated it. But it was like, imagine if I had like where we're at now, like 20, 30, 40, 50 properties, like what would have happened? So I've always told the students of this, of BNB formulas that Airbnb VRBO should just be looked at as like another marketing arm to your business. It is not where your company or your business should live at. When you talk to a lot of people who have like 1 or 2 properties, or 1 or 2 listings, they'll say like when you ask them what's your business, and they're like, I'm an Airbnb. You're like, no, you're in hospitality. And that's another thing is like, when you're getting into this business, it's really easy to say I'm in vacation rentals, I'm in short-term rentals, I'm in Airbnb, but you are in hospitality. And where I see the market currently, and I mean, you saw this way before I did, is it's almost going full circle. Where before Airbnb and VRBO, like your parents' property, you just had to pick up a phone or go in person to book a property. But now it's like with like Airbnb and VRBO put short-term rentals sort of in the spotlight, especially after COVID, I feel like. And it feels like it's going full circle, and you're sort of, in my opinion, you're sort of at the forefront of that.
No, thank you. No, you're 100% right. It's something that we're noticing even now is that it's the old school marketing tactics
Right.
that are thriving in a new school marketing world. And there's so much like we can dig into. But I mean, the most simplest option of this and the simplest sort of thing that we're noticing with our website. So we design direct booking websites built on
Yep.
WordPress. And with WordPress, you get so many tools. One of the options that we're able to add in is live chat.
Mm.
And one thing that Airbnb doesn't have, one thing that VRBO doesn't have is a live chat function. So when you're on the site, say that you're on your listing on Airbnb, there's no way where a guest can get a quick answer to a question. But by having that on the website, what we're noticing, and this is more like a post-COVID thing, is that the guest wants to ask that additional question. If they're going to spend like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a holiday, vacation, staycation, workcation, they want to make sure that number one, that what they're booking is what they're getting, but number two, they've still got that sort of little angsty thing behind them, is that if I book this now, is this vacation definitely going to happen with X, Y, and Z? You know what I mean? And so they are wanting to ask those little questions, and this is very much an old school thing. So before Instant Book was even a thing, like Instant Book is been around since 2015, 2014, so not that long in this grand
Right.
scheme of things. The way that it used to work before the commission model, it used to be that you and me would have a business, we would find a listing site and we would pay a subscription fee. Booking.com and the Expedia group and Expedia bought VRBO. So way back when, it used to be home and away and all that jazz, but it used to be inquiry mode only. Airbnb used to be inquiry mode only. Instant Book and commission changed everything. But what we're finding now is that back when it was inquiry mode only, it would be guest finds property, guest inquires to property, guest waits for a response, guest books. Instant Book has changed that, and the way Amazon pretty much has changed that. So now, like, one click purchase, and the way that our attention spans have lowered,
Right.
that has transformed everything. But now what is happening is that the guest is wanting to ask those questions, so it's better time than ever. This is why direct bookings are on the increase, because there's hosts like yourself and other switched on hosts that have got a listing on Airbnb, but you are not betting your whole house on their land. You are using it as a marketing channel, just like I would use Instagram, or I would use Facebook or YouTube or wherever. That's what I'm using Airbnb to do. So I use my Airbnb listing to show that we are a professional business, that we're a professional host, but we also have our own direct booking needs. And so it encourages the guest, the future potential guest, to go from Airbnb to jump onto Google to find our direct booking site and then book with us. So there's loads of like ways we can dig into that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's very interesting because like you dive pretty deep in the social media world as well, like social, not like organic social media marketing stuff. And I wanted to ask you, for people listening, for people who are watching, who are specifically on Airbnb VRBO only, or say just on Airbnb, what would you recommend? Say they have like one listing, two listings. What would you recommend would be the first couple steps to sort of decrease your reliance on them?
So the first thing that I would do, even at property one, is get a property management software.
A
So
PMS.
otherwise known as a PMS, right? And there's a ton of choice out there. We put together a blog post at Boostly, which basically we interviewed 100 hosts. We got the pros and cons, who they're with, etc., and we turned it into a blog post. You can go check that out. It's BOOSTLY, boostly.co.uk/PMS. And whoever you go with, and there's multiples that you can go with, just get one. The cool thing is now in 2022, 2023, it's so easy to change your PMS provider. When I first got going in 2012, it was the hardest thing to do. It was so much time, sucked the time out of you to do it. But now it's so simple. It's a case of click and change, right? But just get one, whoever that may be. And once you've got that in place, then that is the foundation that you build your business on. Now, once you've got that, It then means that you can get listed on Airbnb and you link it to your PMS. You can then get listed on VRBO and you link it to your PMS. You can get listed on TripAdvisor and Booking.com and you list it and you link it to your PMS. You can go on Hopper. You can go on all those places and link it to your PMS. The problem that most hosts make is they create an Airbnb account and they link everything to their Airbnb. That's the problem. So they'll maybe get a hospitable account for the messaging and they'll link it to Airbnb. They'll get a VRBO account, but they link the iCal with Airbnb. So what they're doing is they're building everything on the Airbnb land. And this is where the problems happen because, like you said with your example, for no fault of your own, a guest just knows how to play the system to get a money back or refund or put a complaint in. Airbnb, they literally act before they ask. And the reason why they act before they ask now is because they've been listed on the IPO, they've listed on the stock. The company is so big, they've got so much people there behind the scenes, but they rely heavily on automation and AI technology. And as we all know, with AI, it's not ready yet, and people can literally just click, gone, no questions asked. And it is until you appeal, it is until you get all those eggs in the basket and you've got to document everything that you can get it back. But like you say, if you're 20 days, 23 days without income and you're doing the arbitrage model that obviously BNB Formula talks about, and you've got a landlord who's wanting his rent and that rent needs to be paid and you've got no income coming in, pretty screwed. So you've got to protect yourself. You've got to protect the business model that you're running and you've got to ensure and make sure that you've got all of your bases covered. And it all begins with building your house on your land, and PMS is the best way to do so.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And then from the PMS step, where would you recommend the next step be? Because I've taught a couple. So one thing I've taught to this community is StayFi. I think StayFi is what Arthur is doing with that company is that's one of the pillars to my company. It's like if you're relying on Airbnb and VRBO, putting StayFi in all of your properties or maybe just one of your properties to start. And then getting that contact info, usually get the contact info from the guest anyways. But like we have a property that sleeps 14 people. We're not going to get all their contact info unless if we ask for it directly. It's sort of more of a streamlined way to do it with StayFi. But then you're building that email list just with any other business. The email list is one of the most important things. And then you can remarket to them. Even if you don't have your own website built, you can stay top of mind and remarket to your Airbnb VRBO listing while you build out your direct booking site. But I would say like after the PMS step, what would you say is the next step after that?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head with building an email list. And it's what I love about StayFi. I wish that StayFi was around in 2011. I've said this to Arthur many, many times. Like Boostly and StayFi have got a real good relationship. Like I say, I'm not an investor. I don't own it. I just love it.
Me neither.
And I feel like it's a really good product. And for those of you who don't know what it is, in simple terms, if you've ever gone into a Starbucks, if you've ever been in any airport, to use the Wi-Fi, you've got to give up your email, right? And this is what StayFi have done to the vacation rental. Now the product has improved massively. Now they've built in text message marketing, they've built in email templates, email automation, all that jazz. But the most amazing thing that I like about it, and you hit the nail on the head, when a guest books, you just get the guest booker's detail.
Right.
But with StayFi, you can get the full party because let's say it sleeps 14, right? Let's just say for shits and giggles, that's 7 couples, right? So you will get just one couple's data. But what happens if that couple, the booker, never comes back to your area? Then that's it. But there will be somebody else in that party, about 6 other couples that may come back or may know somebody. And that's how you stay top of mind. And the best example I can give you with email marketing, I know it works time and time again. We used to do this every single year. And this is a little tip that everybody can do.
Love it.
So every January, we used to close off all of the key dates in our calendar for the upcoming year on the PMS to the OTAs. So let's just say, for example, let's say we're based in Arizona. I know the Super Bowl is coming, let's say February, whatever it is. We would block off those dates to Airbnb, to Booking.com, to Expedia. So the only place you could book is direct, right? Then what we'd do is go to our email list. And our email list was only small, let's say 3,000 people. And we would email our list in the first week in January. And we'd say, hey, hope you've had a great holiday season. Hope you had a great new year. Just to let you know, for the year ahead, these are the dates you can only book direct with us, and we'll just list them out in a nice little a little table on an email. If you want to book those dates, it's first come, first serve. Here's the link, and we'd send them to our direct booking site. If you've got any questions, here's my direct cell phone number, and here's my mobile. Now, we could, and we did, easily generate majority of our bookings in that first week. Now, why is that? Now, the first 2 weeks of January have always been well known as when everybody shakes off those hangovers from the New Year's and they sort their year ahead. They plan their vacation, right? And because of that, we just tapped into when people were making their booking decisions. We put a little bit of FOMO in it, and we told them exactly how to book. So we were being sort of differential. We were direct, and we told them how to book. And that email would go out, and we would easily generate 4 figures, 5 figures, easy. And that was the simplest way of generating direct bookings. No Facebook ads, no retargeting, no Google ads, no fancy SEO, just super simple, clear email marketing, all done on MailChimp, and it set us up massively for the year ahead.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And it's just it's crazy because we recently just, I mean, Airbnb updates their website every single year, but I would say one of the biggest things that recently happened, and I know a lot of students dealt with it because we talked directly with the students either through the group coaching or the one-on-one calls. But one thing was that like Airbnb completely redid their algorithm in the summer. And it, in my opinion, I mean, we're doing this private right now, but like in my opinion, it's screwed up. Like if you go on Airbnb right now and you look at my properties, or you look at like it doesn't even the algorithm screwed up a lot of things. And I know there's been a lot of gripes about it, but it reminds me of like the Google slap that happened almost like 10 years ago, where like everyone's business was completely gone or like wiped off the face of the earth just off of like one update. And I love that line. I've quoted that line so many times, and I know it's in your book. Don't build your land, don't build your property on other person's land. And I'm a developer, so I even take that even more to heart with me developing my properties. But I mean, it's so key, man. And so let's talk about what Boostly. So you'd already touched on what Boostly is. You guys do the website building, which I just actually started the process of doing with you guys. But what are other things outside? I know you guys got a podcast, but what are other things that Boostly offers? I know you're working on a second book as well.
Yeah. So the first thing was this. I wanted to put together this book, was the playbook,
Absolutely.
book direct playbook, and I really wanted to put this together because it's 10 years worth of tips and advice. So that you never have to worry about an algorithm change again. And you're so right. I've totally forgot about the Google slap, but it's a perfect example for anybody who's listening to this and sort of went through that. So with this book, it was something I brought out February. We're very lucky to sell nearly 10,000 copies. And it's making a big difference, which is fantastic. Now, this book is all about marketing. So it's 101 direct marketing tips. Now, these marketing tips will ensure that you never have an empty calendar again, which is all about how we do it and how you don't have to just rely on Airbnb. There's lots of fantastic Airbnb books. You just have to go search them to find them. I even give Danny, Optimize My B&B, a shout out in this book because it's a fantastic Airbnb book. This is not an Airbnb book. This is a marketing book and how you can generate tons and tons and tons of direct bookings. The problem is that there's a lot of people who come into sort of my world who are not ready for the playbook, as in they are at property one and they've got questions about the foundations that they should put in place. So, before you build that house, before you do it yourself, you've got to put in a solid foundation, right? And that is why the blueprint is coming. So the blueprint is coming in December.
Oh
and this is actually a book that I'm really excited about because it was a chapter I pulled from the playbook because it didn't fit. And I wanted to take this chapter and I wanted to work with my friends and vendors from the industry to put together a foundation and put together this blueprint book. So we've got iPrac, we've got Mount, Price Labs, we've got Touchday, Uplisting, DAC, Tech Tape, Superhog, Mano and D Travel and co-host. And that's coming in December. And basically we're talking about all the different pillars, all the different things you have to put into place.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, you almost touched on every single company that we've featured in all of our group coaching calls. and it's just one of those things. Like when I first started, it was just like I just thought about Airbnb, VRBO, or whatever. But it is truly, like we said in the beginning of this podcast, it is truly making and going full circle with it's essentially like you're taking the old school ways of booking a property, like you already said, and you're just applying internet technology the same way you did with your family's property. But in a way where you're giving hosts complete control over their properties. And so the last thing I want to talk about, man, and it was something that I recently started teaching the students, and it's something I recently started implementing in my business, and it's the power of influencer marketing with also what you're teaching with Boostly, man. And I'm going to shout out Staymo because I just had one of the co-founders of Staymo stay at one of my properties, and just what we had sat down for dinner with one of my investors, and we were just talking back and forth. And just that world, man, I know like influencer marketing, like you get like a water bottle that you want to sell, you get a couple of influencers to get you to sell your water bottle. But that I feel like that is an untapped market that few hosts are utilizing right now, especially if you have a unique property or some sort of unique stay. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that and just like sort of where that has evolved from and where it's going currently.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on. The influencer marketing, and I use the term influencer very loosely because
Right. Very loosely.
I firmly believe that every guest is an influencer. And I've had
Oh, I love that.
Jordan from
Yeah.
Stayamo on the podcast, and we had a real good chat about it. And I love what Stayamo is doing, because the problem is I've been working with influencers since
Influencer.
2015,
Yeah, yeah.
2016. Like and what I did is I looked online and I looked at family travel blogs. So to reverse engineer this even a step further, before I even went down this route, I worked out who our key customer avatar was. And when you talk about a customer avatar, it's just fancy marketing term for who's your ideal guest? Who do you want to be walking through the door? So when you look at your customer avatar, it's all about identify, locate, and attract. So we identified who the type of guest was that's coming to our local area. Then we located them, as in where do they spend their time?
Yeah.
And then what we did is we attracted. Now, what I realized is that we get a lot of families. And I was able to locate that there were a handful of bloggers, YouTubers who had a very engaged social media following. And this is 2015. Okay. And I reached out to them. It was so easy to get in touch with them. They were really sort of welcoming. They sent me a media kit, media pack, how it worked. We arranged the deal, the stay, etc. And then in return, they posted YouTube videos, they wrote blog posts. And the cool thing about videos on YouTube and blog posts is that it's evergreen. These blogs are still here nearly 10 years later, and they generated so much business from us. Now, the influencer sort of market has changed so much over the years. Now you're probably looking to pay, but I always say to any host, because so many hosts are not tapping into this, if you're going to pay $200 to $500 for a professional real estate photography, that is the same budget that you should be allowing to a social media influencer, because they've all got fancy cameras. They all know what they're doing. Their editing skills are on point. And it's just imagine inviting a real estate photographer into your business that's got a super engaged audience. That's literally the best way to describe it. So you can get content out of it and all of that jazz. Now, what I love about Stayamo is that they're making this process smooth and simple. They've got a website that's going to have influencers on one side, hosts on the other, and they just marry the two together. So it's so easy. The trouble with this world is that the influencers are shy at reaching out to business owners because they don't want to come across as spammy, scummy, etc. Salesing.
Yeah.
And the hosts don't know who to identify as a good influencer, because anybody can just buy 100,000 followers, but they don't know if those 100,000 followers are genuine or whatnot. And so this is the truth to it, and this is a trick to it. You are so right that it's undertapped. It's been my mission for the last sort of 10 years to sort of show hosts how to do it. We've done so much training on it, but I've seen the benefits, and there's so many fantastic examples of how it works and how it works really well. I want to give a shout out to Rose of Your Family's Place. It's a really good example of how to do it properly. And there's so many others. So yeah, well done for reaching out and working with Jordan on that one.
Yeah, man, and you just said a couple things that I want to touch on real quick. So like the every guest is an influencer. I absolutely love that. And the reason I love that is because there have been so many guests that have, and we recently started doing like Instagram and stuff, because we mainly develop like unique properties, but you're ever we have so many guests that reach out to us and they're like, do you have an Instagram, do you have a blah blah blah, and then but it doesn't even need to have to be a unique property. It's almost like if they have a good stay at your property, they're going to post it on their social media. People are posting constantly what they're doing, especially if they're on vacation. So I love that the every guest is an influencer. And then one thing I've talked about here, before, to some of the students is that your year, your 365 days, that is your inventory, and you want to look at it as your inventory. Your entire calendar is what your inventory is. And after you start hosting for a while, you start seeing, okay, like maybe my average daily stay is anywhere between 3 to 4 days. So if it's 3 days, you only have to bring in 120 guests into your property. Now imagine if you bring someone into your property like Jordan or someone on Stayamo, where they have 200,000 followers on their Instagram. You have 200,000 here, and you only need 120 guests for the entire year. It's not like you're selling this water bottle where you can produce 10, 20, 30,000 of them. You only need to bring in 120 guests into your property. And it's like the numbers don't even match. 200,000 here, 120 guests here. It's such a powerful way to bring your guests into the property. And it's outside of the stay-fi, outside of what Boostly teaches. I mean, it is what Boostly teaches. It's one of the quickest ways we have seen recently to really get guests into our properties. Yeah, and
No.
then the last thing is, when you're talking about your customer avatar, your guest avatar, is some people make the mistake, and I know I've made this mistake, that sometimes each one of your properties might have a different guest avatar. Like take for example, like we have a log cabin that I know that's more like a family friendly type property compared to maybe the first property we developed where it sleeps like 4 people, 2 to 4 people. That's more like for like a couple guests, like a couple to stay in. So the guest avatar is huge because then you can start targeting, especially when it comes to the local travel. When it comes to the local travel organizations in your area, they have all of those resources out there where you can go in there and sort of tap into some of those essentially communities they've already established.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's massive, and it's at the end of the day when we talk about customer avatar, we talk about niches and all of that. People always freak out because the problem is what they're doing is they're trying to appeal to everybody. But looking at anybody's going to give them money, and when you appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody. We've only got a limited inventory, just like you've said there. Like if you did solely week stays and you were planning on being full for 52 weeks of the year, then you've only literally got 52 stays. You only got 52 customers to find. You haven't got an Etsy store. You haven't got whatever. It's not unlimited inventory. So when you think of it like that, and then you stop freaking out about trying to appeal to everybody and you focus on a niche, then your life becomes so much easier. Because when you have that niche and when you've got your avatar, your email copy becomes simple, your website copy becomes simple, your Airbnb listing copy becomes simple because you're speaking to one group of people. And, you know, people always kick back at me saying, well, you know, I've got 10 properties spread over 2 locations. One's in Scottsdale, one's over in Myrtle Beach. It's 2 avatars, blah, 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 blah. Fine. Focus on one property, one area, do that, nail that, and then sort out the Myrtle Beach one. It's super simple. Just focus on one and go and do it. And then life just becomes so much easier. And what you'll find over time, especially if you're doing this arbitrage model, is that you're going to be presented with so many opportunities, so many times down the line of your route. And you're going to have people throwing properties at you saying, hey, do this, do that. But when you start doing this avatar training properly, you'll have a customer avatar, you'll have a property avatar, but you'll also have a landlord avatar as well. So you'll be like, this is the personality type I want to work with. I don't want to work with X because they're a total different personality type to what I am. I will not get on with them. And then you build up this, and then you'll start to build a business that you solely love to be part of. And it just makes life so much easier. So the best thing to do, start at property 1, go from there.
Yeah, no, I freaking love it. No, that's awesome. That's a really good way to end that piece. I have a couple questions that I have written out, man, that I ask all the guests that come onto the podcast. The very first question is, who's been influential, coach, mentor, someone who's been influential in your business and in your life?
So he may not even know this.
Yeah.
I've spoken to him once, but it's Mike McAllowitz.
No, and we talked about this before. Yeah, yeah, no, no.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
massive influence. And it's probably only in the last 18 months, really, that he's really sort of come into my world. But the three books, Profit First, Clockwork, Get Different. So lucky to have him on a guest on the Boostly podcast. And he's going to be at the same event, speaking at the same event as I am in March, which I'm so looking forward to meet him. I'm going to be the geeking out the front of the queue for a selfie and an autograph. Yeah, he's had the most influence on me, and he probably doesn't even realize.
Yeah, guys, and if the one of the most influential books on the accountant side of my business has been Profit First, and Brian and all the coaches have always recommended that book. I did an entire training for the students on that book, man. It really brings to light your numbers, and it also like helps with sort of like where do I place this money in that place. But no, I mean, my Clockwork is another. I mean, you're the one who really got me to dive deep into Clockwork. And just I mean, that's how I've trained my entire like all the people that work for me, all the entire company, man.
Nice.
And then
Nice.
the second question is, what's one of your favorite quotes, personal, business, anything?
So this quote is a little random, but you got to like sit with it for a second.
Yeah,
But
man.
it's imperfect action applied at speed is the key to success.
Where's that come from?
It came from a guy called Dan Meredith. I don't even know if he came up with it, but it's Dan Meredith. He's a UK entrepreneur. He's part of when I first got going in 2016, it was his Facebook group I joined, which was Coffee with Dan. And then he had a paid group called Espresso with Dan. Joined that and just sort of devoured everything, learned loads. And he said that quote a few times, and it sort of really stuck with me. So it's very similar to the Zuckerberg "done is better than perfect" quote. So basically, it's just imperfect action applied at speed is the key to success, and it sort of highlights everything that I've done at Boostly. I can point to so many aspects of Boostly over the course of the last sort of 6 years, and I can come back to that.
No, that's incredible. I mean, the imperfect action piece, it's like it's very difficult, whether in BNB Formula or just like going through YouTube, it's very easy to get into the analysis paralysis of like there's so much content on there. It's not about I'm a firm believer that you should be an eternal student, but that doesn't mean that you're just sitting and devouring 50 books at the same time. It's you're devouring a book for maybe 30 minutes, hour every day, and then you're applying whatever you just learned to that. No, that's incredible. Yeah, and the very last thing I wanted to ask you, man, outside of the Boostly book, whether it be short-term rentals, we just talked about Profit First and Clockwork, so that might be the answer to that. But outside of those books, what's a book, I guess a very general book that has been influential in your business
Yeah,
outside of real estate?
easy one. It's Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. So Tim Ferriss was probably one of the first proper business podcasts that I got into. I used to just devour soccer podcasts like days at a time. But then when somebody recommended Tim Ferriss, the first ever Tim Ferriss podcast episode that I listened to was the one with Jamie Foxx, which turns out to be like one of his best, probably his best and most sort of well-renowned ones. And the Tools of Titan is basically his top 200 episodes, top 200 guests, and he put it into book form. And you can read that at any point in your business journey. You can read that at any time. I literally have a copy here behind me. I've got a copy in the car, got it on Kindle. It's there, and it's just what I love about this, and it was a massive inspiration for the playbook. So what I love about the Tools of Titan is that you could literally open it up at any chapter, dig into it, read one, put it down. And when I was creating the idea for the playbook, I wanted to have exactly the same formula, which is why I called it the playbook. It's like a sports playbook. So you could, like a sports playbook, you would go, right, I need a drill on passing. Find my passing drill, read it, implement it, go. And that's the same thing with the playbook. It's like, right, I want a tactic on social media, whatever it may be, read it, implement it, go. And so, yeah, Tools of Titan, by far, doesn't matter where you are in your journey, doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want one book, go get that.
Yeah, no, man. And I've been such a firm believer in, I mean, we're talking about short-term rentals, vacation rentals, hospitality here, but I've always been a firm believer in learning about topics outside of whatever business you're in. At the end of the day, our brains work in patterns. So it's like I think it was like 6 months ago, I picked up like 5, 6 AI books because I was interested in that topic. And the stuff that I learned in the AI books is help me with my short-term rental business. It's like it's just very interesting. I always recommend it to anyone to always try to learn some sort of topic outside of what you're currently working on, and I guarantee it's gonna open your eyes to that world, but it's also gonna help you in whatever you're working on, whether it be short-term rentals or whatever business you're in.
Nice.
But yeah, man. Yeah, we're practically at the end of the podcast, but I essentially wanted to final piece of advice you want to leave everyone where people can find you at. Best place to connect with you, man.
Best thing to do, go and pick up a copy of this. It's on
Absolutely.
Audible, it's on Kindle, it's on print. The Kindle version is literally 99 cents. I guarantee you'll get a return of investment on it. And that's where you can find the best places to sort of reach and hang out with me. Once you get a copy of the playbook, you'll also then get notification when the blueprint goes live. It's going December 2022. This has literally just come back from the printers. So we're in pre-launch mode. So whenever you listen to this, go check out the playbook. The blueprint's the next book, and I've got one more book coming up in the Book Direct series, and then I'm done. But yeah, this will be book number 4 this year, which is a bit crazy. So yeah, no, definitely. And again, yeah, just reach out. Any questions you've got when it comes to any forms of marketing, direct bookings, etc., reach out. Please go grab a copy of that book because it will massively help your business in 2023.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it, man. I'm sure so many people, this is we're probably going to post this in a couple days here, but I'm sure so many people are going to find value in this. And this is a topic that's not really covered too much in this community, and I'm like geeking out. I'm like sweating because I have like literally, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I have the person that is like at the forefront, in my opinion, of this whole like, I'm not gonna say direct booking revolution because there are other people in it, but like I see you as one of the heads on that like Mount Rushmore of like people who are heading this community.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Really
man.
appreciate it.
All right, appreciate you, man.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.